You're listening to The Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa. 100.9 app.
Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles. Here's Eddie Garcia.
In the NBA, the postseason got underway with a pair of play-in games out west. In the 7-8 matchup, the Lakers beat the Pelicans 110-106. Anthony Davis, despite some back spasm issues, did play for LA. He had 20 points and 15 rebounds. LeBron James, 23 points in the win. For New Orleans star Zion Williamson had 40 points and 11 rebounds, but left late with a hamstring injury. Lakers earned the 7th seed. They'll face the number 2 seed, the defending champion Denver Nuggets, in the first round of the playoffs. Meanwhile, in the 9-10 matchup, the Kings beat the Warriors 118-94. Keegan Murray for Sacramento had 32 points. Aaron Fox, 24 points for Sacramento in the win. For Golden State, Steph Curry had 22 points. Klay Thompson, 0 points, 0 for 10 from the field. Golden State is eliminated. Sacramento will face New Orleans. The winner gets the 8th seed and will face the number 1 seed in the West, Oklahoma City, in the first round. NHL Capitals beat the Flyers 2-1. Washington captures the final wildcard spot in the East, eliminating Philadelphia, Detroit, and Pittsburgh.
Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to center and you were playing fullback up there. And I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. But you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to pick it, and our running back coach didn't take the pass. biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning. Welcome into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, powered by Mac Sports. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning. Join us live on the Martin Houston Show podcast each and every day from 6 to 7 a.m. Monday through Friday. Follow and subscribe to the live stream on Facebook.com/Alabama Sports with Martin Houston. This is the Martin Houston Show talking Alabama sports. The sound of Alabama sports, your show, your team. The playbook for today, Would You Rather Wednesday? Got an interesting question I'll circle back to here, kind of basketball versus football. We had a question from a listener yesterday, how to build a roster in 2024. We were talking about the coaches' grades yesterday, so we'll do that. It's official. Caden Proctor in the portal with a do not contact me list, which tends to mean that they've already decided on their landing place. And so we'll talk about what does Caden Proctor coming back to Alabama mean for Alabama sports. And hey, listen, man, it's been such a crazy offseason, X, that we're literally a week and a day from the NFL draft, and I don't think we've mentioned it one time. And while we've not been talking about the draft, Dallas Turner and J.C. Latham have been doing this, shooting up the draft board, but nobody has been shooting up the draft board as much as J.J. McCarthy. I'm concerned with J.J. McCarthy being another guy. He may be great. It's just certain quarterbacks, certain types of quarterbacks the NFL still falls in love with. And he's one of those guys. And the fact that you don't see Michael Penix in there, I have a bold prediction. We won't get too much into the NFL draft. I like Drake May, though. I do like Drake May. I wish he had stayed at Alabama. It'd been interesting to see what would have happened if Alabama had Drake May the last couple of years. Do we have Bryce Young? Do we have Jalen Milroe. Does Ty Simpson even show up? Man, it's crazy, right? All of those things. Right. But I look at this draft and I go, Caleb Williams. Didn't they just trade Caleb Williams? Huh? The dude they just traded, the same quarterback, right? I was just having fun. I look at this and then I'm like, J.J. McCarthy is going to be the guy that everybody has always fallen in love with. And then there's, and don't ever pan out. And then Michael Penix is going to be Russell Wilson. So I just have all these thoughts in there. But anyway, I digress. If you want to talk about the NFL, we can talk about it. And one of the neat things, that's where Saban making his debut officially, as part of the NFL draft, committee. So, the draft team, for ESPN. So there's a lot for us to talk about there. Remember that this is the day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. Good morning, officially. X, how you doing, man?
Good morning, doing well. How are you?
Doing well. All right, check out this would you rather question, X. It's been an interesting time of basketball and football, right?
Yep.
So here's another interesting question. George Teasley from Tallahassee, Florida. George is going to have to be, I'm sorry, I digress a little bit before I ask that question. George is going to have to be our, eyes and ears around a bunch of our transfers from Alabama. Cause he's in Tallahassee, Florida. And that's where a lot of our guys went. And so I saw a Florida State guy yesterday, and you know how we call we call schools Alabama East or Alabama. I said, hey man, you're welcome to Alabama South, Florida State Seminoles. So, but we'll stay connected with George there. But anyway. Here's an interesting, would you rather question. Would you rather have front row tickets to the semifinals in football? Semifinals. What? Or the Final Four championship game in basketball for Alabama. Talking about Alabama football. Alabama, this is, you see what I'm saying? Front row tickets to the semifinal game in football, like the Rose Bowl this year, or the championship game in basketball. Front row tickets, man. I mean, you're on the floor or on the front row, whichever way, whichever one of those you choose, you're in the thick of it. You got the best seat in the house. Which one would you rather have? So, let that sink in for a second. You don't have to answer it right off, but just think on that for just 1 second. I was like, ooh, man, that's interesting. Cause whether you love football or not, man, the basketball atmosphere is crazy. So, think on that for a second and we'll circle back on a couple things. X, Proctor officially in the portal. What does that mean for Alabama?
If I'm not mistaken, he's already said that he's going to re-enroll this summer. So, it's pretty much a done deal. He did the no contact tag. He's already said he's coming back to Bama. It seems like the coaching staff is willing to accept him back. It's going to be interesting to see what happens once he gets here. Is he going to be handed back a starting position? Is he going to have to work his way back up the depth chart? But it's pretty much official. He's back at Bama.
Yeah. I definitely, I guarantee you he's not handed a position. Okay. Because you destroy your team if you hand him the position, in my opinion.
Agreed.
But what does it mean for Alabama? Not what does it mean whether or not Alabama gets him back? That's a foregone conclusion. But what does it mean as far as Alabama football and roster and depth and all of the things that go along with getting? I mean, he's the top tackle in the country. He looked like he had lost weight. I don't know if you saw him on the sideline or not, but he looked like he had lost weight just seeing him on the sideline.
Yeah, I mean, offensive line is a position that Bama needs depth and experience, and Caden provides that, especially from the experience standpoint. Started all 14 games last year, was a freshman All-American. So, I mean, that's what it means right off the bat, that it feels the need.
Is it all positive? Is it all pros, or there's some cons to this move back? That's everybody's just talking about, hey, Proctor's coming back. Woo, Proctor's coming back. Woo, Proctor's coming back. Proctor's going to be the starter. Huh?
I'm honestly not a huge fan of it. I mean, it's the way he left. It's not giving this coaching staff an opportunity, a chance, and he found out that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. I really don't know what the initial reason for him leaving was. He was homesick. Well, what's going to stop him from getting homesick again?
He broke up with his girlfriend. I mean, yeah. See, did I throw you off with that? Seriously, one of the stories out there is he wasn't just homesick. He was
lovesick.
He was, yeah. And she happened to still be in Iowa, where he was from. And so, but supposedly they broke up shortly after he got back. I don't know if that's true or not, but that was one of the stories that I was told. And we've only heard the positive side. Justin, is this all positive? I mean, is it all positive, that you're getting the number one tackle from the year before who's played 14 games for your program? Is it a positive? Is it a positive? That's the thing. And that's why I'm asking, what does it mean? I mean, is it all positive? I'm going to give you my thoughts. I want to give you guys a chance, since I've had a little bit of chance to think on it. I'm going to give you a chance to think on it once we go to break. What does Caden Proctor being in the portal mean for Alabama? Pros, cons, positive, all positive. Take it. Would you rather have Caden Proctor? You can throw that in there if you want, as your transfer tackle, or would you rather go out and find another tackle that you believe can come in? If you had a choice, would you rather have Caden Proctor back as a 14-game starter, who you have great film on, or would you rather go out and find someone else in the portal? Will he be on scholarship? Just because he comes back, does that mean that Alabama puts him on scholarship? Does he count toward the number? All of those things. We'll ask those questions. We'll answer those questions. We invite you to get in on the conversation at 205-342-9904, or post your thoughts, comments, and reactions in the live stream chat. We'll be back in just a moment.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Do have a minor accident this morning on 359 and northbound at exit 1. Minimal delays. Also, a moderate crash this morning on Highway 11 in northbound near milepost 89 in Cottondale.
Provided to all participants. Volunteers should check in at the Rock Quarry Boat Landing on Lake Tuscaloosa. Learn more at Tuscaloosa.com/loveourlakes.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky mostly cloudy today. We'll have the chance of a few scattered showers, maybe a thunderstorm in spots this afternoon and tonight. The high today 79, the low tonight 62. A very warm day tomorrow, a mixture of clouds and sunshine, the high 86. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 65 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Interact with the Martin Houston Show by calling us at 205-342-9904 or tuning into the Martin Houston Show on Facebook.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. We got a Would You Rather Wednesday going on. For those of you who may just now be joining the program, the Would You Rather official Would You Rather question is, would you rather have front row tickets to the semifinals in football or the Final Four courtside tickets, and it's the championship game in basketball? Semifinals in football, Final Four. Hey, Justin, have you guys thought, what are they going to call the Final Four in football now? You know, I mean, they're going to have to come up with something, right? They can't just play and you can't just get to the last four games of football and be okay. So I'm going to come back and let you respond to that. But really quick on the other side of it is the question we're getting a little reaction with is the Proctor situation. Caden Proctor officially back. Pros, cons, good, bad, positive, negative. What does it mean for Alabama? Real quick, you guys got a name for the Final Four in football? You can't just have all those rounds of football, right? And then say, hey, we're down to the last four.
I don't know. That's a good question.
I mean, listen, somebody out there have to be thinking about that, Justin, from a money standpoint, right? Because that's how you make your money, man. That's what makes, you know, the reason that whoever came up with March Madness, brilliant marketing mind, but whoever came up with the Final Four, that tag, that name, brilliant. Because, I mean, literally in basketball, man, you get to the Final Four, you're Mount Rushmore level coaching at your respective school. You got a name for it, Justin?
I think they just stick to the semifinal or whatever it is. I don't think they go Final Four. If anything, they go something weird like last four or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They have to do something. It's like, it's always been college football playoffs, right? That's what the Final Four has been. And that worked, right? But you can't just say college football playoffs anymore because that's what, 12 games? Well, I don't know how many games it is, but, you know, you can't just say that.
6 games.
So,
is it? Something like
no, it has to be more than 6. The first round is 6 games. Right? Right? You know, I mean, each
first
game
round
plays
4 games. Well, that's the problem because they do a bye. So I think you go 4 games. 4 games.
4 games, 4 games.
2 games, 1
2,
game.
1. Yeah. First 4, last 4.
Next 4.
Yeah.
But you know, but think about it. It's the playoffs for the NFL, but they have wild card. They have, you know, they have the playoffs, the wild card, divisional. They have a name for each round, and then they have the Super Bowl, right? Well, college football has always just had the college football playoffs, and then, you know, and they haven't really done, so that's a sidebar. But anyway, let's back to the Proctor thing. I'll let those people, if they want to pay me, I can come up with a name now. I could find one. But all right, back to the Proctor thing. I'll let y'all noodle on it a little bit. Let's see what some of our listeners are saying. All right, no, you go ahead first, X, and then I'll let you know. Virgil Williams has some strong thoughts on it, so we'll see.
I really don't like it. I think you're potentially inviting a cancer back into the locker room. We've heard about everything that took place last year, the homesick, communicating with a different coaching staff throughout the season when you were having struggles. You know, this could be a repeat thing. And then, man, if he gets back into the starting lineup, he better have worked his butt off from the second he steps back on campus, because I just see it being toxic.
Yeah. Your thoughts, Justin?
That's really my only concern is the locker room. How is he going to be accepted back in? There's got to be some bad blood there. I mean, we had Malachi Moore saying if you ain't wearing crimson, and and then Caden Proctor was like, okay, bye, and left, and then came back. I think from a play standpoint, I'm excited. I think it's a great addition, especially considering I've heard the rumors of Elijah Pritchett in the portal because of Caden Proctor coming back.
Do you blame him?
Oh, no. I think that's a smart move probably, because even though we have this new coaching staff and system, Caden Proctor has the experience, and he probably will have that one up on Elijah Pritchett again.
But would you care?
The other part,
I don't care.
What happens if he doesn't get his spot back? Like, that's the other part. If he doesn't earn the starting spot back, what type of problem is he in the locker room then?
It could be a ticking time bomb. Y'all understand what a ticking time bomb is?
Yep.
Let's say he doesn't win the job. Let's take the negative side from his perspective. He doesn't win the job. Ticking time bomb. Why? Because Justin kind of hinted at it. There's some guys that are excited he's coming back. I've heard that there's some guys who do not want him back. And I didn't get any names, but there were some guys who said, hey, if you ain't with us, you against us, right? If you ain't wearing crimson, you're out of here. Okay, well, he's back now. Do those guys still feel the same way? And if so, when will that become an issue? When could that implode or explode? And both of those are possibilities. Implode mean he doesn't win his job and he becomes like cancerous. I should be starting. I should be this. I should be that, right? Mm-hmm. Or an explosion. He doesn't win the job and everybody's, he's negative and he's this, and then other teammates get upset. And now they have to start choosing sides. Ticking time bomb. If he doesn't win a job. But he's also a potential ticking time bomb if he wins the job. And when would that explode?
The second it happens.
Not necessarily. It's not a ticking time bomb.
Struggles. If he struggles.
Yeah, well, that's a possibility too. But watch this. We're hearing that Elijah Pritchett is going in the portal. I have not heard that. I think we as fans are making that assumption that Elijah isn't going to stay and fight. Now, Elijah did the same thing, everybody remember? To Virgil Williams' point, I, for one, am not a big fan of him coming back after he actually left. If he had entered the portal and then decided to stay is a little bit different, especially in the situation you coaching staff. Well, Elijah Pritchett went in the portal last year. And then he decided to come back before Proctor left.
Mm-hmm.
But and I know there's some other things going on with that I'd heard about. But anyway, either way, not every time these guys go in the portal, it's always football related, or their decision. But he decided to come back. If he comes back and wins the job, what do you think happens next year when it's time for, because you need to understand, there's not one guy that fought for a starting position at Alabama. Elijah Pritchett isn't the only guy that went through all of the reps all off season, all spring to win the starting job. There was several guys battling for that.
Right.
Let's say he wins the job at left tackle. And then they move Pritchett to right tackle. Now the right tackle's upset. But if Elijah isn't good enough, what about the guy that was running second team tackle? All of those things. So it's the potential of how this is managed to be problems in the portal in December. Early signing period. So that's what one of my concerns is, X.
I mean, I 100% agree with that. I mean, when you're looking at what it could turn into, it could be a cluster, and it could create problems left and right, time after time with this decision. I really wish it either stuck it out or stayed gone, honestly. I do not like the fact of him coming back.
And here's the question. How would you have handled it if I was the coach? I would have, before we accepted him or accept him out of the portal, I would have had this team vote on it and talk about it. And maybe they have. That makes sense?
Yep.
I would get buy-in from either by if he has a leadership council or whatever. I would have, you see what I'm saying? I wouldn't just, yeah, come on back. I would gauge my team and all of that. You can't give the team power because you as a coach want to bring back who you need to bring back. And there could be feelings, but I would have at least my leadership council, those who I know can help smooth it out. And I'm assuming that they've done that because they understand that if I'm sitting here thinking this could be a ticking time bomb, so are they. Pat, you're on regarding Elijah Pritchett and Proctor, on the Alabama One hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
I would recruit Pritchett to stay, and I would not take. He had a good home, but he left. That's right. There's a marching song in the Army about that. I had a good home, but I left. That's right.
Oh, wow, Pat. Look at Pat. Pat saying he wouldn't take him back. It's an interesting thought because everybody has made the assumption that this is just going to be great for Alabama. It has the potential to be both and. It could literally be a really, really good thing for Alabama. It could make Pritchett go in deeper and harder. Or it could make us be in a situation where Proctor comes back and he's home run, right, Pat? And Alabama's great in this fall, but then it could cause us to be, we're already thin at offensive line. We can't afford to have multiple offensive linemen go in the portal next fall in December because we're already thin. We need a strong influx this year in the portal, and we need a strong recruiting class, or we're going to be thin at offensive line for a couple of years. So it could be both and. What else you got, Pat? Before I let you go.
Yeah, real quick. Let's go back to 1992 when you was in the Sugar Bowl. Gino Torretti knew what every light looked like on top of the Superdome. He knew which ones was weak and going out because our defensive line was on top of his butt the entire time. And that's the same thing that happened to my poor quarterback last year. I mean, when you get looking at it, hey, if he hadn't been as big and strong as fast as he was, hey, we would have been looking for a backup quarterback quicker because of how porous our left tackle was.
Yeah, everybody seems to remember how good he was differently. I've heard people, Pat, you say, man, he's going to help us. I'm like, our run game is pretty strong. We need a pass blocker, and maybe he loses weight. It looked like he's lost weight. Maybe he's that guy. I don't know that he'll be the left tackle even if he comes back. I mean, that's my thought. I don't know that he'll be the left tackle even if he comes back. Thanks, Pat. Appreciate you, man. Good point. So, any closing thoughts on that, X, before we get to break?
Let's not forget, I think Proctor was on the field and stayed on the field because of the situation of NIL and promises made. He doesn't have that security blanket this time around.
Yep. He's gonna, but on the other side, I admire the kid for, and this is a part that's positive for me, because I don't want to make it all negative. I don't want to be just totally negative. I'm just talking about, hey, this is what potentially could happen. He could come in, the team could fully embrace him because of the way they vetted the team and everything. And he could come back and he could be all world. He could not start this year. He could battle and it's a possibility that they may tell him, hey, we'll take you back, but you're redshirted for a year. All of that is a possibility, right? But I do admire the young man for this. He made a mistake. He went somewhere. He thought that was right. And he had the guts, because it has to be embarrassing a little bit, X, to come back. And he's willing to take that criticism.
100%.
And know that that's criticism. And maybe that's the type of kid you want on your program. Maybe this locks in. The other side, though, is how many more guys do we see? And through the break, is there a guy that left that if he wanted to come back, Alabama fans, did you say, come on? Is there another one that left? X, I want yours, and I want yours, Justin. If there was one guy that left that you said, man, I'd take him back right now, who is that? Who's that guy? If you had a choice. We'll get the would you rather question. Front row tickets to the semifinals in football, or front row tickets to the Final Four championship game, the Final Two in basketball. We'll answer it on the other side right here on your home for Alabama Sports, the Martin Houston Show. Billy's Cooking Restaurant. Go check them out. Billy's Cooking LLC is who you need to check out. It is a Wing Wednesday.
Saturday, May 25th, Pearl River Resort Silver Star Convention Center.
No news. This report is sponsored by Compassion International.
Keep it locked into Tide 100.9 for more of the Martin Houston Show with Martin Houston and X's and O's Sports, Xavier Houston.
All right, welcome back in. We'll have Scotty Hollins joining us in the fourth quarter to wrap up our series about building a great foundation. But X, man, it's so many different things to get to. Chuck Hunt making a statement that you know, offensive linemen, you can't microwave them; they have to be developed. So does that lean you toward, you know, wanting Proctor back or not? Interesting concept there. George Teaser said, I'm old school. You're on the team. Don't leave and come back. Don't make it a habit. Don't make it a habit easily. I asked the question, X, who would you want back? If you could get one guy back, you kind of throw all that concern out the window because they're that type of player. What guy do you take back in the portal? And you know it's going to come with some pros and cons, but the pros far outweigh the cons.
I mean, that's easy. It's Caleb Downs. I mean, I don't think you can really say anyone else. And I think it's because of the rumors that we've heard of. The reason why he left was more of a dad controlling the situation than him really wanting to leave.
What about you, Justin? I get that.
Well, X definitely is right, because that's the same name I thought of initially. I'll go with somebody different. I, of course, can't think of the name off the top of my head, but the cornerback that transferred to
Ole Miss.
Was it Ole Miss or FSU? He had
Earl Little.
He had a big play in the SEC championship game.
Trey Amos. Ole Miss.
Yep, Ole Miss. That's who I'm thinking of. Yep.
And when I asked the question, Trey Amos was the guy. I said, you know why? Watching the spring game. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're taking the most talented guy, it's Caleb Downs. If you're taking what you need the most, it may be that other corner. Right? Is that kind of why you went to that direction, Justin?
Oh, exactly. Nail on the head.
Yeah. So and that's kind of the thought process there. If you're looking to fill needs right now, X, and you you don't know a Caleb Downs, where are you going first? And we'll talk about this some on roster management tomorrow, but let that sink. Would you go after another?
No, I mean, if it's
right, go ahead.
If there's not a Caleb Downs out there, it's definitely Trey Amos in this situation because of the need for that position. Because you're looking, I think Damani Jackson can be very good in this defense. I think Keon Sabb and Devontae Smith can be good replacements for what Caleb Downs brought to this team, depending on where he would have played in this defense. That other quarterback position, there's a lot of talent. Man, there's so much talent. Yeah. Xavier Brown, Zay Mitzi, Mbakwe. I mean, the talent is there, but there's zero experience.
Yeah. Let this sink in for a second. I mean, just think about, is the drop-off as far from Downs to Sabb as it is from Terrion Arnold or Kool-Aid McKinstry to that guy? That's why I said if there's a guy out there, I might bring Trey Amos back. And guys, guess what I've heard? He might be
He can't transfer back to Bama.
Huh? He had to sit out because it's SEC. Yeah. Well, there we go.
Did he not enjoy the hot dog eating contest this past weekend?
Here's the question. Here's the question, though. He's a grad transfer, isn't he?
Oh.
Ooh.
Does that change
Might be.
I think he's a grad transfer. I think. I'm not sure. But if that'd be with the NCAA.
I'll look that up for tomorrow.
Who knows the rules, Justin? I don't think they do. And Ryan Fowler and I talked about it. Ryan Fowler and I talked about it. Y'all know that somebody's going to transfer back in the SEC and say, make me ineligible. Right? Do y'all remember before the transfer portal got really big? One of the first guys, he was from Alabama when Kirby went to Georgia, the defensive back. Oh, what was his name?
Mo Smith.
Yeah. Remember it? Everybody, oh my God, you can't do that. Well, what did he do? He fought it and he was proved to be eligible. Same concept. He ended up playing that year instead of having to sit out. So Don't be surprised if somebody fights it. But here's a question. And like I said, we're going to, Jed Cohen saying, I heard that a player can't transfer from the one SEC team to another right now. They just not immediately eligible, Jed. That's the rule in this transfer portal window. In this window, the rule is, from my understanding, the rules change so much that you can't transfer to another SEC school and be immediately eligible. You can transfer, you just have to sit out. Do what?
In the spring window, you can't interconference transfer
and be immediately eligible. So, because I don't think they can take your ability away to transfer if you're willing to sit out a year. But here's a quick question before we answer the basketball question on the would you rather, have front row tickets to the semifinals in football or front row tickets courtside, in the Final Four championship game. How good would Caleb Downs have been in this defense in both coverage and him being that run support corner or DB? Oh, this defense was built for Caleb Downs. I mean, it was built for Caleb Downs.
It really was, and that's what I think that's the frustrating part when you look back at it and go, "Oh man, why did he have to leave? Why did Pops have to get involved in this?"
Keith Bryan saying Jermaine Burton transferred from Georgia to Alabama. Yes, he did, but he did it in the fall window. You can transfer anywhere you want to any school. It's just the spring window, in which I like that rule. So it keeps SEC schools from destroying SEC schools. You could literally mess your entire conference up if you let the free willy-nilly, from conference within conference. But I think somebody's going to challenge it. All right, X, what's your would you rather? What's your thoughts there, man? On you got front row tickets to the semifinals in football, or you have courtside tickets to the championship game in basketball?
Man, I would love to be at. I would love to be at both, man. I am a football fan first.
You can't be both.
I'm going to answer. I promise.
All right,
I am a football fan first, and I think that would be a great atmosphere to be at in the Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl, a place like that. Just great atmosphere. But man, courtside of a Final Four game or the championship game, man, that is closer, is more impact. Players could be diving around you. I think that atmosphere is second to none if you're talking just like being there in the moment.
Interesting. Jed Cohen saying basketball for me. It's been my lifetime bucket list for me. I have always wanted to go to the Final Four. And he just said the Final Four. He didn't even say the championship game. Would you rather? CJ Watson said basketball, front row for basketball is a different kind of experience. Then he talked about reaching the Final Four in football is not as impressive from a tournament standpoint. 12 teams to 4 versus 68 to 4. While, it's not pretty from a marketing standpoint. He's talking about the name of it. But he said the college football worked when it was 4 teams, but 12 or 16. It's hard to make huge deal about the semifinals like in basketball. I may disagree with CJ on some of that. What's your thoughts, Justin?
Yeah, I've been to a lot of football games here at Alabama. As a student, I would get there early, and I sat front row student section almost every home game of the 4 or 5 years that I was there. The thing is, as much as I love that in the environment, I like to see plays develop, and I think watching football games are a little bit better, just a little bit up. I think I'd prefer like a box seat or something like that. So I'll go basketball as well because, like X said, if you're in a big moment, you're basically there celebrating with the players on the court.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm taking the tickets to the Final Four for Alabama for a couple reasons. One, the closeness. Number 2 is, man, that Bama's never been there. That I will be a part of history, first time ever, just like the people who went to the Final Four. We need some people to call up and tell us what it was like to be at this Final Four, just to be in the building, right? History making moment. But I would love to be courtside, man, and in the thick of it. and watch Alabama be playing for a national title for the first time in a sport that we have all loved but never seem to get to that mountaintop. Where in football, I'll probably be like, yeah, we'll get back here. I'll pass on and think I'll get a chance again. So if you had to choose and you don't know if you're ever going to get back there, you going with the championship game in the Final Four as a whole. Lots and lots to get to. And maybe maybe we can have a conversation around, is it going to be easier to get to the Final Four in football than the Final Four in basketball? Winning 2 football games in a playoff environment is pretty doggone tough. Or 3 games, I'm sorry, is pretty doggone tough. That's why you don't see very many wild card teams make it to the Super Bowl. It's tough. Isn't it the same as basketball? We can have that conversation this off season, but it's looking forward to it. It's going to be some surprises and upsets in football now that we've not experienced in times past when it comes to playoffs from the college game. Coming back on the other side, we'll put your finishing touches on this edition of the Martin Houston Show. We'll have Scotty Hollins, Executive Director, Blueprint Ministries.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Do have a minor accident this morning on 359 and northbound at exit 1. Minimal delays. Also a moderate crash this morning on Highway 11 in northbound near milepost 89 in Cottondale.
Card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code GEAR for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code GEAR.
Welcome back to the Martin Houston Show, the sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team, on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. It's now time for the Harvest Church Christian Moment of the Week with Scotty Hollins, Executive Director, Blueprint Ministries. Good morning, Scotty. Welcome into the program, man. And I'll toss it to you to encourage us how we can incorporate our faith into the boardroom, classroom, or our chosen field of place, sir.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Martin. And, we've been walking through a series, the building blocks necessary for building something special. And we've looked at 4 specific things. Spending time in God's Word. Let me back up. We looked at a focal verse, which is Psalms 127:1. It says, unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchman watches in vain. So we talked about when you're thinking about building something special, when you're setting out to build something special, you got to have the right building blocks, but you also got to make sure you start in the right place. And so as we talked about that, we looked at spending time in God's Word. Why? Because, listen, unless the Lord builds the house, you're wasting your time. So we want to spend time in God's Word and allow God's Word to inform us. But we also want to spend time in prayer and ask God for direction, ask God for strength, ask God for all those things that we need to build that something special. And actually, we may want to start with prayer to say, Lord, is what we're trying to build in line with what you want? Or ultimately, we want to make sure that we're joining God. One of the first books I was taken through, Martin, when I first became a Christian, was a book called Experiencing God. And the book, it had these 7 points. And the first point, one of the top 3 points was, hey, we need to know that God is always at work. And we need to ask him if we can join him. And so I think, we talk about building something special. Ultimately, we want to build God's kingdom. We want to be a part of what God is doing. And so let me just make sure that that's clear. But sometimes God has given us clear direction, and we know that he wants us to build something special. In those cases, we want to, jump in his word just for direction and to stay in his word, because the most important part of what God is building is us and our relationship with him. And so we want to make sure that we don't ever make the project more important than our relationship with him. So the greatest gift that God could ever give us is himself. And so we want to make sure that as we build, we spend time in prayer. We spend time in his word because we want to cultivate that relationship and make sure that even if he builds something that, through us, that gets a lot of attention, that gets a lot of accolades, we want to always value him more than the project, more than the blessing, more than the praise, because he's the one that's deserving of that. We also talked about spending time in fellowship, spending time with other believers, and as we talk about building something special, and finally, spending time sharing the message of Christ. Next week, we will look at a different verse. I won't give it to you today, Martin, but we'll look at another verse as we talk about building something special. And, we talked about the building blocks. Now we want to talk about the focus. Like, what do we need to be focused on? A few other things that we will kind of, as we finish this series, we'll kind of look at just a few other things, but one verse in particular that I think will take a couple of weeks, and I think everyone will enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many points on that, but as you were talking, just tying it into kind of us sports fans and how sports and faith kind of mirror each other.
Yeah.
You have Mark Sears and Grant Nelson considering going to the NFL, right? That's what I love about the college game. After the season, they get a chance they can declare for the NBA. And, and Grant did that last year, and I think Sears maybe even did it last year. And they got feedback.
That's good.
And they got feedback from communication with who they would be working with, the NBA as a whole. They said, hey, you need to do this, this, and this, and it'll help you be more successful. So that's all prayer is. We're playing in the game of life, and we want to keep moving from next level to next level or building a solid foundation. Why would you not communicate with the person whose team you want to be on, and then him say, hey, if you'll work with me and you do this, this, and this, you'll be better. Then that's what Mark Sears did. That's what Grant Nelson did. And now these guys are in a better situation than they would have been otherwise. Man, and so to me, we make prayer a lot of things, but I believe that's why it starts with prayer. That is the absolute most important thing to every relationship you and I have. Whether it's our relationship with God, our relationship with each other, our relationship with our teammate or coworkers, it's communication. That's all prayer is. So guys, if you didn't hear anything else he said, if you do that, then all the other things will slowly be worked out because God will lead you to him. Give us your closing thoughts, man, and tell them where they can find you.
I love that. I think that's exactly right. Just looking to him, living for an audience of one, and he will steer you in the right direction and the best direction, which is his direction. All right. You can reach me at www.blueprinttuscaloosa.com.
All right. Hey, that's Scotty Hollins, Executive Director, Blueprint Ministries, joins us every Wednesday. Thanks to Scotty, thanks to Xavier, thanks to Justin, and thanks to all the callers, listeners, viewers, and chatters for being part of the Martin Houston Show. Remember this, trust in the Lord always, and not your understanding, and always acknowledge him, and he will direct your path.